Hello, 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 hello. Hello, hello, hello. Again, there will be no starting soon stream or beginning transition. I'm just gonna kind of leave it on here for a moment and retweet. It'll be very quiet, no background music. So if you want background music, please put it up for you. More story time. All right. Let me just make sure my little chat bit is working. My chat's not working. Let me see if I can fix that. Let me see here. Wow. Well, I have chat open to see, but it looks like my chat's being a little wonky with me today. No worries. I'll have that fixed after stream. I think there was a lot of updates going on. So, oh wait. Let me see here. Let me see. 1 second. Okay, now did that work? No. How unfortunate. That's okay. I'll get that fixed some other time. Not really sure why it's not working. Maybe there was another update. Well, good morning, good evening, good night, depending on where you are. There will be, I'm not sure how many chapters we'll get through today. I'm feeling a little bit better since the last time I did this. But the whole actual reading part will only take an hour. Ugh. All right. I'll wait a couple more minutes. Future me, remember to look at why chat's not working. Oh well. Yeah, I'll look into that later. Let's see here. All right. I think my frames are a little wonky right now, but it's okay. Okay, perfect. Give me 1 second to mute and call. Okay. Chapter 5. Let me move my mic closer. Again, Chapter 5. Cypress was one of the one walking around with the three in the building they were in. A small tour was in need of the Druid Elder's wishes. They at least had a bands off now, but a contract was agreed before that. You are not to use magic to a certain degree unless cleared by the council. Minor magic is fine, but the population in Pembroke is still 78% non-magical humans. There are multiple places in the city to stay. However, Cypress looked over to Atraxia. You're going to be staying at You're going to be staying at my place of business. You understand? It's for how different you are, correct? Atraxia sighed but gave a nod. I don't see how I'm allowed to even walk around after what happened, quite honestly. As long as the other two get to do what's comfortable for them, I don't care. Well, give yourself some credit. That building was specifically used for the purpose of That building was specifically for the possibility of anyone capable of destroying it. Then the guards you fought, you didn't even kill them. Hardly even wounded them, besides giving them a massive headache to wake up with. Cypress tapped nails against the top of the registrar desk. So it's simple. We record your information and get you registered as residents in the city. We register those that work with the council so we can reach out to them in case of emergency. Then you take my mark, which is the most efficient way of giving you clearance for areas. Like super secret areas? Hector chimed in and looked over the documents. Well, not the super secret ones. The super secret ones. For once, Cypress had a chuckle over something. His hand moved over the papers and the final information was starting to form. He then rounded the table to stretch out his hand. Come on, one at a time. You must agree for the mark or it will not take to your skin. Agree to protect those that cannot protect themselves. To put effort to even protect the secrets of the realm and banish terror. That's a bit dramatic, don't you think? Atraxia raised a brow. Hector moved over and gave his hand to Cypress with no question. Dramatic, but I kind of like it. Just imagine it, Atraxia. Going around and protecting rather than ruining our clothes with nonsense we had to do. Atraxia scoffed in response, and Cypress let out a sigh. Cypress turned to Hector's hand over in his... Cypress turned Hector's hand over to have his wrist upwards. Then he leaned forward to press a kiss to his wrist. Magic sparked to life and whipped around before sinking into his skin. When he pulled away, a lily flower with one petal filled in was placed on his wrist. Hector took his hand around and happily raised his hand to give it a look more close. I don't know what my English is doing right now, but you know. When Aku placed his hand on Cypress's, Cypress looked at him and a bit confused. You don't talk much, huh? Actually, he sings pretty great, can even play some instruments, and you'll see a little bit of beasties come out to listen. Hector laughed and kept looking at his new tattoo. He's also taken down marks that were far larger than him, Atraxia then added to the point as well. Aku gave a soft smile to Cypress. As a night walker, you should understand. Cypress paused out of the surprise for the title to be said. He then stared at Aku for a moment. How do you... Those of the night tend to know each other. The Fae also just like to talk about the beings they see. I'll be on my best behavior and agree to the terms. Eyes narrowed as Cypress took focus on Aku. However, he would brush it off to the side for now and complete the contract on his wrist as well. When it was Atraxia's turn, Cypress noticed the double tattoos on each forearm that went all the way around. What are these rings of sort, a contract? Yeah, they're my proof of contract with Ares. Often I joke that they're both shackles that bind us together. They may get offended if you place your contract on there, so be a little careful. He didn't further question it, but simply made sure to place it further up her wrist, near her hand. After the contracts were made, he snapped his fingers for a unique coin to appear in one of their grasp. One with a lily carved intricately on one side and the visage of a woman on the other. This is a VIP coin for my place of business. When in the elevator, you put it on the sensor if you want access to the upper floors. I went ahead and had Hector and Aku have the same ability stop at Atraxia's floor. I already have a room decided for me. Indeed. My fellows work fast when it comes to stuff like this. Cypress then beckoned for them to follow. When they left the small office room in front of the room they were judged in, they came to a larger front area. Here, they saw more beings than before. Different shapes and sizes of residents sat in chairs or stood in line at the main large desk. The more surprising sight to the three was the Minotaur that sat behind the desk. An older one wearing a more business attire of a vest, tie, and slacks. Even his horns had been decorated with medals attached, and longer part of his mane were braided neatly back. When he noticed them leaving, he gave a polite nod to Cypress and then the three. The little round spectacles he wore were the thing Hector had a large grin from seeing. Once leaving the building, Cypress flicked out his wrist for a rolled-up paper to manifest. The paper was given to Hector, who was already grabbing for it. A map to make things easier. The city is also quite large, it'll take time to properly get used to it. The building we just left was the Singing Stone. It is a building where official business is usually taken, heard out, discussed, and more. It is more a public official building place rather than just one for the council. My business is labeled there, the Blue Lily. It's a club, cafe, and a sanctuary first and foremost. A sanctuary? Atraxia looked over the map at different labels. There are even spots to not go to certain areas. There's still strife out in the realm. My business has a more casual and fun setting, for sure, but to those of the realm that need sanctuary, they can find it there. Now, for places you three might find in your interest, The Tower of Awe is nearby and is the main supplier for any magic users' needs. The Brass Tavern and the Brass Rooms is where you can find housing. The Emerald Halls are the main place of the council. Those that work for the council may pick up jobs there or request information. It also holds one of our libraries in our research room. Temple of the Gods is a place where any being can commit to their favored god or even try to seek answers from others. The glass markets are self-explanatory, as they're the markets with the ivory arches looking over them. He then pointed out the southeastern section of the city map. Non-magical humans are technically present in both parts of the city, but mainly take over the southeastern section. It is more strict when going over the bridges, but your permission is granted via the council. However, the Quilts will keep an eye on anyone that visits. They're a rather angry human bunch. The Theater of Gold is about the only place you'll see residents show up, beings of magic. Why do you say non-magical humans so much? Why do you restrict magic? Hector had a frown on his face. Cypress gave a smile and gestured around at the city. The ones born to Renai are all born with various amounts of magic. Even humans born in the Dorraine Kingdom are talented magic users. However, non-magical humans came to this realm many years ago. They used the fragments that connect realms. Scientists that sought to take and study. Originally, they were a great stain in our history. However, children do not have the sin of their parents. A child is innocent when born to the realm. The children of those of other non-magical humans that ended up here stayed. They have a right to live as well. So, adjustments happened. The Council 9 was founded in the hopes of ushering in a peace rather than warfare over one's blood and history. Hector nervously pressed his hands together. When we worked with Julius, we weren't taught much of the realm. Only that Renai was large and he wanted a lot from it. My mother was one of those non-magical humans, always angry over not being able to do anything herself. Cypress had a moment of realization and looked to them. You also said she was a scientist, correct? Atraxia focused on his expression and let out a long breath. I know what that look is. Yes. We also know that place where the stain came from. She spoke of the place often in the grand work of the Dragonet Company of sorts. She even had papers that claimed to have taken from there. She would try to show us and get us to understand the great justice she was doing. Julius ended up taking the papers in the end. A sigh came from Cypress as there was nothing further to judge. Oh, 1 second. Ew. Okay. I had to check something. A sigh came from Cypress as there was nothing further to judge. The three were victims of all this in the end, so instead he gestured for them to follow through the city, with pointing out shops occasionally. At times, conversations were still had. Tomorrow you'll be assigned a formal teacher. They will help you hone your skills should you wish, as well as teach you about the realm. Then, I do have things for you to do, so you'll be given someone that will be your guide. For you, you look to Atraxia. They'll be living with you even. Their job is to be stuck to you until the council fully agrees between all 9 over the situation. Thought of that bothered Atraxia, but she wasn't going to argue. Okay, that's the end of that chapter. I'm gonna take a drink of water. Okay. How am I doing on time? Pretty good. I don't know if we get through 4 chapters, because these chapters now are a little bit longer. So they may take a little bit more time. Ow. Lovely. Sit up straight. Chapter 6. Day was becoming darker because of overcast clouds. Being so high up, it was easy to tell the rain was going to come. Let's see. She stretched and extended her wings. It was a bliss how the wings brushed through the feathers from being on top of this building. Not as great as the giant trees of Satar, but at least these towers of metal and glass sparkled both during the day and the night. Talons gripped the edge of the skyscraper as she perched on support and leaned over more. Vibrant yellow eyes peered down at the small shapes of beings walking down below, and some with their moving machines. How sad it was that not all creatures could fly as she did. Her head cocked to the side, and one of the wings that acted as ears would stretch out, listening, waiting, hunting. Oh, there was much to be done today. The woman stretched up the way. Blech. The woman stroked. I can't speak. The woman stretched upright again before taking a long breath in. Oh, how the air was getting that lovely scent of rain into it. Her feathered wings of brown and white shades readied themselves as she gazed over the cityscape. Then her weight leaned forward, and gravity did the rest and let her drop. Wings stretched out and battered the air with powerful strokes. This had her climb back up to the sky and bring her more over the opening down below. After scaling the sky more, she twisted around and started soaring for down. Bah. I don't know English sometimes. After scaling the sky more, she twisted around and started soaring down in a spiral. Below were 3 figures that had been walking. The closer she became, one of them stopped. These were the ones that she had been hunting for. A hand moved to her side as magic started to condense in a green hue. When she pushed her arm out against the wind in her descent, a spear of green crackled to life. Just as she was about to strike down on the one that had stopped, a shield of arcane teal had manifested by them. Her own spear clashed with the surface and halted her assault. Yet she grinned and flashed 2 pairs of canines, and her wings started adding pressure. More and more. The one with white hair that had blocked her would grimace and try to brace themselves. Just as they were about to falter, the winged woman pulled away just to land a few feet away. The spear dissolved and she pointed claws at the taller woman. Using magic without permission is risky and frowned upon. The woman looked as shocked at the other two that accompanied her. You came at me. The wings stopped. The wings stopped. The wings stopped, and a talon tucked her. Blah, 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 blah. What did I write? I don't remember what I wrote. But she tucked her wings against her figure more. Likely story. Claws moved to her hips, and she grinned wildly at the 3. Next time you shall let me strike you then. When the white hair looked even more confused and dispersed her shield, the winged one laughed. Her wings stayed nestled against her back, and she gave a bit of a bow. I am Anna, Brightwing. I am the harpy that is assigned to watch over you 3. I have very good eyesight, so I doubt you could even get away from me if you tried. Which means... She walked over and tapped a claw to Atraxia's chest. The harpy was at least a foot shorter than Atraxia, and yet acted mightier. You are the white-haired one I'm assigned to be living with, to keep a better eye on. After Atraxia's confusion and Hector's laughs, Anna directed them to other places for the room Anna directed where the other places for room could be had. For the area that they were in, she walked around and given them a tour for the day. Even when it started to sprinkle, she hurried Hector and Aku along to rest and get situated for the day. The 2 of them ended up picking out a room at the brass rooms, being right next to the steel river that cut through Pembroke. Shouldn't we be heading over to whatever that blue lily is? Traxxas questioned as she wiped some of the sprinkled rain off her face. Oh, scared to get wet? The toothy green was fresh, and Anna was proud to take English. Difficult. A toothy grin was flashed, and Anna was proud to be taken aback by the other. We will get there after some point. It is good to enjoy things while we walk and talk. A sigh was let out, but Atraxia followed along anyways. The 2 of them were walking along the cliff that dropped down to the roaring river below. Do you have hatred towards non-magical humans now, Atraxia? Or even a general hate that churns in your stomach for all that has been done to you and your siblings? Well, that's a bold start to questions. A dry laugh was let out, and she lifted her arms to rest behind her head. Her gaze shifted out to the river, to the buildings across the way. Then they shifted to the buildings they were near, and beings of different species that walked around happily in the light rain, or stood chatting by stores. I used to be, sure. I probably still am, even. Right now, though, I feel as if I'm gonna wake up and all of this was some sort of dream. I also worry that if I let loose without thinking, Hector and Aku are gonna have to pay for it. There was a bit of silence as they walked after she spoke of her concern. When they were walking past markets, Anna did speak up. If you have any aid, don't exactly deny it. Craft it, hone it, wield it. Control your anger and to make much more happen. To use it as protection or to use it as a weapon when needed. Okay, I'm back. 1 second. Yeah. This drawer. Go, Eileen. Renee, if you're here, I sent you a message. Oh, I just had tried a little bit of a drink. My body doesn't know how to react now. Okay. What was I? I need to sip water after that. Ooh, I feel it in my stomach. Ooh. Ooh. I did tweet I was live, right? Yeah, I did. Okay. Cool, cool, cool. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let me see where I was. La, la, la. I'll just start from this mid part. Well, that's a bold start to questions. A dry laugh was let out and she lifted her arms to rest behind her head. Her gaze shifted from the river to the buildings across the way. Then they shifted to the buildings that were near and beings of different species that walked happily in the light rain or stood chatting by stores. I used to be sure. I probably still am, even. Right now, though, I feel as if I'm gonna wake up and all of this is just some sort of dream. I also worry if I let loose without thinking, Hector and Aku are gonna have to pay for it. There was a bit of a silence, and they walked after he spoke up of concerns. When they were... Oh my gosh, someone at my neighbor's is honking the horn to be let in. They have like this security thing, and they have to honk to get the attention to be let in. It's so annoying. There was a bit of silence as they walked after she spoke of her concern. When they were walking past the markets, Anna did speak up. If you have any hate, don't exactly deny it. Craft it, hone it, wield it. Control your anger to make much more happen. To use it in protection or use it as a weapon when needed. She flashed another toothy grin. The Harpy are a violent bunch. Some would even say we are descendants of the Valkyrie. Warriors that rule the skies, and are deadly as just they are graceful. Graceful? You're more like a small gremlin of sorts that just likes to fight. Atraxia smirked and raised a brow to her. Anna stopped immediately and turned to face Atraxia. A couple steps were taken to close the distance as she gripped the front of her ship to pull her closer. Atraxia even let it happen and still had a smirk with how Anna seemed to look up and meet her eyes. You have no idea who... Oh, okay. You have no idea who you're challenging, young one. I'll make sure to put on your schedule so you know a bit of discipline. After staring at each other for a long moment and seeing no difference from the threat, Anna let her go and scoffed. Ah, a mouth on you. I should be glad to put you in your place. Now, come along. As they walked, the rain would finally break free from the clouds. The distant rumbles would have residents seeking shelter in buildings out of worry for a storm to come. There were others that hurried along in the rain as they busy lives and places to go. Anna at least could cover herself for the most part with her wings, but she shuddered at times from the chill being soaked. Finally, they came to a building rather different from when they passed the brass rooms. A darkish stone with blue glowing hues here and there. Just from the outside, Atraxia would have mistaken the booms as thunder until they squeezed past the others and came to the ground floor. Mood lighting, music, dancing, and a lot of things were going on at once. There were even some that would near the ceiling doing tricks with ribbons. I'm trying to see if something is being... Okay, I think my mic is doing a good job of filtering out noises. Anna would point to a glass wall off to the left that showed a quieter room that resembled more of a cafe. Her explanation, however, was drowned out from the sound and the fact Atraxia was already getting a bit of sensory overload. Anna would grab her wrist and tug her along to the back wall where there were metal doors. After waiting, it opened up and she pulled her inside. Once inside, the booming was even more dulled. This is the elevator to access the other floors. Here's the sensor. A coin of her own was pressed to it underneath the buttons. A confirmation screen came up as if she wished to go to her own floor, to which she selected to do so. After some moments, the elevator dinged and opened up to a small hallway. When walking up to the door at the end, she tapped her coin to another sensor and the door unlocked. After opening the door, she gestured to Atraxia to follow her inside. A room that was more like a whole floor for themselves. At first, it was still dark, but it was easy to see that from the far glass wall. At first, it was still dark, but it was easy to see that from the far wall that was a glass wall. Atraxia already had slowly walked over to see the storm that was coming down and see all the blurred lights from other buildings. As she thought to herself, Anna would walk to turn the lights on and would point out different parts of the room. If Atraxia was listening or not, she didn't particularly care for that moment. Then Anna's voice became closer and closer till her attention was snapped from a daze, and especially when she felt a claw on her forearm. "You are freezing. Well, go on and take a warm shower or a bath. Relax now and try to get used to this place." Her owl-like eyes focused on Atraxia. "Getting used to all the things will take some time. Tomorrow I will bring you 3 to meet your mentor. I'll even bring you 3 to get to you new clothing. There's a simple set of clothing in your closet for now. Now, Shu?" She pushed Atraxia towards the bathroom. There was a lot on her mind, to say the least. A hot shower sounded great right then, and especially some food. Perhaps she would have been waked from the stream at some point. Ooh, I feel the drink in my system. Give me 1 second to check something. I'm still good for time, so we will do another chapter. Ooh. That drink had hands. I feel it. Bleh. Bleh. Alrighty. Ooh, I just saw the weather from where I'm at. And it's so nonsense that it's still in the 90s today. What in the world? Ooh, excuse me. You probably heard it. Kind of sounded like a frog. Alright. Chapter 7. Oh, come now, my sparrow. Were all the more wrinkles upon your brow, and it wasn't my doing? At least, I don't think they were. You... Oh, wait, hold on. Let me read this. Okay. I was reading it as the wrong person. Rewind. Chapter 7. Oh, come now, my sparrow. Were there more wrinkles upon your brow, and it wasn't my doing? At least, I don't think they were. Are you by chance upset with me? Cypress sighed and rubbed his temple for the arrival of the other. He had a wish for the quiet moment to himself, but should have guessed that he would show up regardless. That large fool couldn't be kept away even if he tried to keep him away. Perhaps this is why they say you shouldn't feed strays. The other man was beefier in comparison to the council member. Golden eyes shined through the dimly lit VIP room as they fixated on the other. A toothy grin was given, and he leaned forward in his chair. They sat across from each other on one of the long meeting tables that Cypress had there. Jay, come on. I'm guessing it was from the stuff recently. The new ones. Surdick. Why did Surdick always poke around without caution when it came to him? Others gave their respect and understood boundaries for a council member. Yet this dog was always so bold. Yes, I understand giving pity for the past, but it still feels like decisions were given so quickly. I guess I should trust the elders and their side, but I have an uneasy feeling about them. Want to explain the feeling more? Cypress leaned back more in his chair, and he thought about what else to say. This wasn't the first time they had new faces in the city. In fact, it happened often, even when new faces came seeking a bed in his business. So why was he bothered today about this? Perhaps it's because they may be a larger danger. Surdick barked out a laugh. They have potential and may be fierce, but they hardly know how to wield what they have. That one you were all worried about took a couple of naps, even. That's because you're a brute. After saying so, Surdick simply smirked in return. It's not even all of them, just 2 blood-related ones. It wasn't when that fight happened, but it was during the trial. Looking at them for such time and hearing their past, I don't know. I felt my blood boiling, but not with rage. It was reactive, and my wings would likely twitch if I had them manifested. Well, Unifilium were spoken about being overly sensitive to beings of magic, and especially those of the night. They spoke of their mother being one of those scientists, yes? Perhaps their parent was a creature of the shadows. The other one. Perhaps even one of the lunar elves, like the blind one they have with them. A sigh was let out from Cypress, and he rubbed his face now. It was frustrating that he was the one responsible for them now. Surdick would stare over at Cypress for a quiet moment before giving a grin. Come here. Come tell me more of what's bothering you. His thigh was pat to gesture for the other to come sit. A displeased expression was present, but Cypress stood anyways. When he walked around the table, he shifted a leg over to straddle Surdick's lap. Surdick looked pleased, and he had half a mind to smack that look off his face. Instead, he gave up and leaned in to embrace him. He even took the moment to bury his face against the shoulder and sat there in silence before speaking. It was appreciated when he felt hands rubbing against his back for comfort. Surdick was unruly every time he came to Pembroke, but he also seemed to have the headaches go away. The council's oracle spoke last week about an unrest in the realm. A ripple that will turn into a volatile wave. I pass it off as nothing, as I usually do, till I got notice that others are wanting to have meetings again. First from Sater and now the underworld. Just as I was stressing over those events to come, all of this happened with those three. What am I supposed to do? I have visitors from those places in the coming days, but I also have to keep an eye on those three. That's where your stress is getting to you. Anna is assigned to watch over them tomorrow, and then they'll even be getting their mentor. You also don't need to go doing those meetings by yourself if it's too much stress. You can always have me come along, you know. Serdic had a soft expression that Cypress wasn't able to see. Maybe for the one from Sater, I'll pull you along. Sometimes the Fae like to trail along while concealed. The Fae are overly attracted to Nephilim and try to pull my hair. Unpleasant. He grumbled at the thought and pressed his face more to Sherdic's shoulder. Another option. You could just have them attend the meetings as well. Or even have her, since she's the one mainly under watch. This suggestion had Cypress sitting up straight and staring at Serdic. What kind of... That would be a fool's errand. You know how things would blow up. A chuckle left him, and Serdic craned his head to press a soft kiss to his jaw. Come now, I was only partially joking. Everything will go smoothly in the end. You need to take the time to breathe and think. Those new ones won't try anything risky. They had nothing but horrible memories, and now have been given permission to safely exist by their own terms. Well, with some rules, of course. They're not going to want to ruin this chance for a decent life, or at least try not to. You should see that written on their faces. He really did wish he could just hit him whenever his dumb face was making sense at times. Cypress never really did like being given advice when he tried so hard to keep it together himself. Leaning on others is so incredibly hard. Serdic, however, was moving Cypress off of his lap, to which Cypress felt a sadness churn in his stomach about it. Then a smirk was flashed that had Cypress lifting his brows. The shifter stood up from the chair. Come, bedtime. Relaxing would do you some good. I should be working on more papers, though. Serdic then turned to Cypress and took a couple more steps to close the small gap. Hands pressed against the tabletop and had Cypress between him and the table. Those golden hands looked even more foul right now, besides the dim lighting. Bedtime. And that's the end of that chapter. Fade to black. They went to sleepies. And not in an erotic way. They legitimately went to bed. Let's see. How long is the next chapter? I might be able to do it. Okay, I can do the next chapter. Tasty. Tasty, tasty. Chapter 8. The next day, the Harpiana followed through with gathering the three and pulling them along to a secret spot, through a portal and into a new place. She explained that there was a way out of the city limits, was a place only accessed by a portal to those who have permission to this old place. A building of white stone and many years of overgrowth. The stained glass was broken in spots near the high ceiling. It was explained that the dead protect this place by forever lurking outside in order to guard it from curious eyes. By the shadows scaling up this section of opaque windows, one could guess a rather large tree stood proudly just outside. A small crack in the far right wall had let water filter through over time and caused a pool of water. The crack being too small to fit through, besides small aquatic creatures, and then the water likely draining into an underground spring. Whatever entrance this place had in the past looked blocked off by debris that would only take a very long time to get through. Fixing my seat. A place of time yet held a breath of peace. The place was tall enough for 2 floors, as there was a balcony above that was supposed to be an entrance. The 3 were in their own stages of awe as they looked around the place. Who had taken interest in the floral poking out of the floor near where the large tree was outside? Hector was sitting by the pool of water and happily watching fish swim around. Atraxia, however, noticed a dusted-over piano off to the side. Just before she could question Anna about the place, Anna was gone. How long was it since Anna left them alone? She didn't know. Quiet. Atraxia instantly would feel off-edge and stood at attention, quietly clucking her tongue for Hector and Aku's attention. They both instantly stopped what they were doing and stand up and looked towards her. Quiet. Even though the silence stayed how it was, they saw it coming. A darkness at first flew from the balcony and it swooped towards them without producing a sound. Instinctively, Atraxia put an arm out in defense for an attack, but instead she grimaced when feeling a pressure at her forearms. The darkness swirled and started to form a creature. An owl of brown and white and gray tones. They seemed to have an expression of surprise with how their ear tufts pointed upwards, and they leaned forward to gaze at Atraxia's face so wide-eyed. Before Atraxia could say anything, their beak opened and a quirky voice came out. Question, question, question. What is the difference between a wandering deity and a neighboring deity? Atraxia wasn't sure if she was more stunned by the talking owl, or for the question that was presented. Hector, however, came over to the 2 of them excitedly. Hector rambled on with inquiries of his own, but Atraxia couldn't focus on anything he was saying. Instead, she just stared at the owl, unable to break out of their gaze. I don't... The owl spread their wings outwards as if disappointed and went back to staring at her. You lot don't even know the basics. The deities rest in the domains or interact with those of Renai or other realms. Renai, the realm we are in, is the vast land where all deities come and go. The owl flapped their wings and let go of Atraxia's forearm. A short maneuver to be able to land on the floor. They then paced without continuing to talk about the topic presented. No, they paced while continuing to talk about the topic presented. A wandering deity is the one that does not stay to one place. They wander the realms or an eye and never keep a place of their own. A neighboring deity is one that offers aid, knowledge, or more to mortals and other beings. A deity may also have a place of their own, temples and such, while also being a neighboring deity. However, one has to be near one to be considered a neighbor. Your assigned mentor is one that is a neighboring deity, one that has reached an agreement with the council long ago to give their word and their mind in aid. Are you that mentor, then? Atraxia was even more taken aback by this interaction, trying to follow their words, but it felt as if things weren't adding up. No, you fool, she is. A golden light funneled out from the balcony and shot straight to them. A larger figure of a muscular woman in golden armor was a moment's realization before her shield slammed into Atraxia. Atraxia had been sent flying and landed in the bushes Aku had been standing near. The woman stood proudly, adjusting her shield for a moment before the shield dispersed in golden magic. She had olive skin where it showed and eyes of glittering gold. What hair stuck out from her helmet was silver. She regarded Hector for a moment, then turned her attention towards Atraxia climbing out of the bushes while slinging curses around. The woman held a presence that was easy to know they were a deity without knowing who it was. Golden magic sparked to life when they stretched out a bulked arm. This magic danced around her and her form adjusted to a more reasonable height compared to the three. Still taller than Aku, however. I feel like I'm gonna lose my guts. Atraxia had gone pale from the sudden impact and was bracing herself while Aku reached over to move hair from her face. Hold on, let me read this part. It is the goddess Athena. Your mentor is one of wisdom, strategic warfare, handicraft, and more. A perfect one to teach you a lot. Cypher, calm down. Despite her stern presence, an amused smile crossed her lips. Then she turned her attention to Atraxia. That was a slow reaction. How are you a threat if you can't even dodge my attack? Her head shook and she clucked her tongue in disapproval. This will not do. We shall train every day and go over history. The basics. First, of course. A hand came up to rub against her jaw and thought, I simply cannot have students so weak and so unknowing. She then flashed a smirk to Hector, who was still looking at her in awe. Be prepared, you three, for I will rebuild you from tattered past. And that will be it for now. That was the end of chapter 8. I would have possibly done more, but the first chapter of today was very long. And I want to keep these story sessions around an hour. That way, it's kind of easier for people to go back to and put in the background or watch or listen to. So it's not a really long VOD. So, thanks for joining in, listening in, or even watching the VOD back. Have a wonderful rest of your day, morning, evening, night, depending on where you are. Tomorrow will be a chill stream of just chatting about random things as I lose my mind, probably. Maybe even do some art as well. We will see. I'll also be talking about the next week tomorrow and some of the things that me and Opal have planned. Well, Opal and I. There's a lot going on next week, I believe, so it should be fun. Have a good one. Thanks for joining. No end screen. We're just going to end. Have a good one.